Welcome back to another episode. So when we left off, we had just integrated the Allied Theban system, or we had just vassalized the Allied Theban systems, and we finished our war with the Centomeroi and Lavis, who then formed a federation afterward. But that's alright, we are more than strong enough to run over their federation, and we will absolutely do so as soon as we can. We're waiting on the truce right now, the truce being 23630501. At the same time as when we'll actually be able to integrate this subject, but we may or may not do that immediately. I generally try to keep a reasonable number of things happening at any given time. If you try to do too much at once, then you can end up destabilizing yourself or dividing your attention too much. We can also see by the notifications that our factories are rolling off some additional ships for our fleet. We were bolstering our third combat fleet, which is coming along pretty nicely. Our ships are getting pretty scary at this point. We're researching kinetic artillery and the 0-point reactor. These are apex items. There will be no better artillery than the kinetic artillery, and no better reactor than the 0-point. Which is kind of a lie. There exist better reactors than the 0-point reactor, but I don't know if we're necessarily going to get it. Mostly because we have to figure out what to do about the enigmatic fortress that's hiding in here. Although when we do go to fight it, I think I want to come in from Kornagi. You can see that the fortress itself is closest to Kornagi, and I know it has a lot of long-range weaponry. By getting closer, we kind of even the odds a bit. But we will deal with that, I think, in the next truce, maybe. Let's see, the construction ship does not have those on the list. Oh hey, our sector itself is actually building some orbital structures. So I guess that is working. It just felt an awful lot like it wasn't. That's alright, we can still help speed the process along. We also have this planet terraforming on the border here, which is one of the reasons that we still have some of these outposts. Once the outposts are done, we'll be good to go though. And this is interesting. So, if we remember, on one of our planets in Istrum, we had the drones from an ancient civilization. The old drones fitfully dormant on Istrum Prime's moon have become active again. Their work is a mixed blessing. Under the cover of night and spotty airspace surveillance, they erected the framework of a gigantic structure a short distance away from the settlement. Our engineers are convinced it's the realization of some outmoded concept known as a space elevator, perhaps a common sight in the times before the Unity first took to the stars. It will eventually be raised as it stands in the way of our expansion plans for the colony, and bringing it down will safely take some time, but at least our engineers are giddy with excitement at the prospect of studying the thing up close. So you can see for 2 years the planet will produce fewer minerals, but I get a bonus to my engineering research. But it's actually, at this point, it's kind of a small bonus. It's not even a full month. But, so overall net total, I would call that a loss, but I think that event itself is scripted, so you can get it earlier. This is also really good. Our construction ship is building a frontier outpost on this star, which is going to let us terraform another pair of planets. I'm going to have to rename them. So you can see the planet and the moon are both habitable. This is how you get things that are like Carathor Prime and another planet also named Carathor Prime, but I can rename them to avoid it. It confuses the AI less because the AI doesn't care about names to begin with. But if we get events tied to the planets, it can be a bit misleading to us simple humans. But that's alright. We can resolve that issue. This planet is in hostile space, so I cannot terraform it. And I'll be able to terraform both of those as soon as I deal with the enigmatic fortress, which I'm fairly certain I've got enough fleet to kill it. I just don't know what happens after you kill it. I've done some reading on a lot of the various Leviathans, but I haven't actually interacted with them, and so as a result, my details may be a bit fuzzy. And while we're at it, You can see the faction, 0.73 influence a month out of our total, which is a pretty solid total. I'm not really worried about that. This frontier outpost, however, is up, so we're going to go ahead and start these terraforming. Alpine World and Alpine World. I also think it's a bit weird that regardless of size, a planet uses the same amount of energy to terraform. I feel like larger planets should probably use more, but we'll see. I also have never actually terraformed a planet myself, so the scale of the planet may not be a tremendous factor. Who knows? Terraforming planets is not something humans are overly good at in real life, so it's not a really good frame of reference for it. Yeah, see, it built some of the mining stations in that system, but not all of them. But that's alright. If I send my construction ship to build stations in a place where the sector builds one as well, it will just skip it for my construction ship when it gets around to it. Ancient Generosity. After waking up again, they briefly disappeared, or the drones briefly disappeared from all sensors. When they returned, it was with a large cache of minerals of unknown origin in tow. They dumped it on the surface after sending a badly corrupted burst transmission indicating they had fulfilled a requisition request. Then they went back to the moon. So the moon now generates additional minerals. I'm okay with that. Extra minerals are not a bad thing. And let's see. You can see the number of people is slowly declining, but my ethics divergence isn't pushing as hard as I'd like it to. I actually don't think I ever adopted my advanced government, because I didn't. That would explain some things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and adopt my advanced government, which costs 250 influence. It does have the distinct downside of renaming your empire, or at least, see Unity Kingdom. But I can change that here back to Unity like it's supposed to be. It also changes the prefix for the ships. You'll see the Battleship Vanquisher here. My new ships will start coming out with prefixes on the names, and to my knowledge there's no way of changing that. But that's not the end of the world. And let's see, what else is there for us to do right now? Well, there's only about 9 months until I can declare war again. Genetic modification research is complete, which is a pretty fun thing to have, if I'm honest. Yeah, we'll get the tile blockers. It's cheap and very useful. And the new tile blockers, again, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the new tile blockers are showing up as research because you have to have a planet with the tile blocker to get the research. And when I'm integrating these subjects is when I'm getting planets of different climate types, which is why I'm suddenly getting brand new tile blockers. This poor construction ship. It's going all over the place. Alright, so I'm going to prepare for a war up here. There's no primitives in that system. And so I'm going to grab all of my fleets and send them up north. It should take them at least a few months to get up there. But having them in position will dramatically accelerate this war. And once I integrate this vassal, I'll be able to terraform more worlds. And let's see how the actual sector itself is performing. You can see it's doing pretty well. It's contributing over 500 energy to me, 600 minerals, and 300 of each research, which is coming along quite nicely. Its personal income, of course, is much lower because I'm taxing 3/4 of their surplus, but it's not struggling. So frantic signal bursts from the moon alerted us to the fact that the old drones on the planet have woken yet again. This time they bring us a significant prize. They've unearthed an ancient satellite from the depths of the moon and partially repaired it. We did not know how the satellite ended up there, nor why the drones have ignored it until now. Regardless, if even a fragment of its databanks have survived, there is a lot to learn about the day-to-day life of the empires the drones once served. So I now get more society research in that system. I'm sure these drones will be fine. I don't think there will be any way that this will backfire at all. Alright. So now I'm going to slow down because I'm planning on going to war. If I declare war on these guys, you can see it's going to bring in the Lavis and the Centomeroi. It's going to bring in my vassal over here. But it's time to liberate planets. I'm going to start on the northern side and just kind of work my way in. And I like to use the search filter because it guarantees that I don't miss planets. If you remember a few episodes ago, I had a war with a person where I liberated some planets but didn't get all the planets in one of the systems. By using the search, you don't make that mistake. And I think, yeah, I'll grab one more. Alright, and that brings me to 90, which is convenient enough, which leaves me the option of humiliating them as well. I don't need the influence, but you can see it'll reduce their influence gain and happiness and increase my influence. And if I can destabilize their empire by decreasing their happiness by enough, then things will work out pretty well for me. So I'm going to go ahead and declare this war. My explorer was in their territory at the time, but that's alright. It'll show up somewhere in my empire. And I'm going to start with all three of my combat fleets together because I don't know where their fleets are, and between the two of them, neither one is threatening to me. The Lavis are pathetic, and the Centomeroi are also pathetic. I think they might... No, they're not at war with the Righteous League anymore. But both of them are pretty pathetic compared to me, but I don't want to risk losing an entire fleet all because I wasn't really paying attention, if that makes any sense. But all three of my fleets are on the way in. They're very big and very stompy at this point. And you see the fleets have different power, but the same counts of ships and no upgrades are available. That's the effect of the fleet academies. Ooh. Speaking of his fleet, this worked out perfectly. He was exactly where I wanted him to be. I could not have planned that. But you can see, I haven't lost a ship yet, and his fleet is falling apart en masse. Oh, there we go. He got a battleship, it looks like. Yes. So we will start replacing it now. All of his ships are dead. And we will go ahead and move to the planet with the transports. We finished the tile blocker, so let's go ahead and grab the living state. It's just a cheap technology. I think it leads to some other pretty useful things, but I don't really need them that much. I'm mostly just getting it out of the way because it's cheap and it keeps popping up, which means it's possibly inhibiting a better technology from popping up. And since it's so inexpensive, it doesn't really hurt. I can grab it very quickly. And go ahead and tell those guys to land immediately. You can see I'm at 14% war score already just from the blockade of one of his planets and from the fleet battle. The blockade of its planet, I don't know. I guess that was the ally doing that? Yeah, it was the ally doing that. And let's see. As I recall, the Lavis are a hyperlane empire. So my armies are going to land on the planet. The planet's at full, but it only has the garrisons, and the garrisons are pretty terrible armies, whereas my xenomorphs are very scary. Yeah, you can see, even though his fortifications are full, my armies are having no problem dealing with them. And meanwhile, that battleship that I lost is almost half replaced. The ground combat is over. First planet occupied. Send these guys here. And send my combat fleets to Deneb. Yeah, I'll go to Deneb. I don't want to move too far away from my border just yet, in case I actually have to respond to something. But I don't think they're going to be able to muster a whole lot. Let's see. Yeah, the Minion has its 2.5k fleet just hanging out, blockading a planet, which is really about the most useful thing he could do. There's not really any way he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with some of these people. Yeah, the science ship is not going to be exploring in hostile territory. That doesn't sound very smart. Let's see now. In Deneb. That's weird. He must have had a fortress or a military station out there or something. Go ahead and tell my armies to land. That should be enough time for my combat fleet to get into position, but I'll be paying attention just in case. And you can see already this war is going a bit faster than the first one now that I'm not, or that now that I've gained power, they have kind of lost power, and I am able to take the offense since I don't have to worry about rebellions in the back of my empire. The erratic behavior of the narcoleptic drones seems to have taken a violent turn. A number of them woke and entered the atmosphere as their only want as is their want, only to slam into the surface at full thrust repeatedly in many cases. Damage to the ecology was negligible, but the nigh-invincible drones were destroyed in a bright shower of blue sparks, indicative of the tremendous force of and dedication to the self-destruction. Can we find out what was wrong with them? Because that sounds weird. And the replacement battleship is complete, so we're going to have it make its way to the fleet. And let's see, what do we have for hostile fleets? Nothing in particular on sensors. And this would go faster if I were to split my fleets up. I'd be able to bombard, siege, and occupy multiple planets at the same time. But I'm very reluctant to do so because I don't want to get fleets and transports sniped. Although I think one of my fleets is probably strong enough to stand on its own. So what I am going to do is exactly that. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, see, Lavis has a 12k fleet. I'm feeling confident that my 20k will be able to defeat his 12k. But if they had rallied their forces ahead of time, they'd have 25, and the 25 could probably beat one of my 20s. Entering orbit of Lockney. That's fine. I'm actually moving to that system anyway. Perfect. They are still going, which means my fleet will catch theirs in just a moment here. Or their fleet will catch mine, whichever. I'm not too picky about it.
Situation log updated. Situation log updated.
And here you can see, even on a much smaller scale, my fleet is having no problem dealing with theirs. His torpedoes are getting shot out of the air by the kinetic batteries. My cruisers are having very little difficulty dealing with his cruisers and smaller ships. His ship counts are pretty consistently dropping, and he FTL'd out after having killed a cruiser. So, this war is then basically over. It's just going to be a matter of moments while I run around and occupy all of his things. And yeah, the minion is bombing over there and blockading the planet, but I need him to clear a path, and he's not doing that. So I'm going to move these guys into the new system here. Try and get this sped up a little bit. And you can see these armies are landing on the planet in Intham. Hostile fleet engaged. Oh, that's in here. That's fine. A battleship can defeat a wormhole station, turns out. I don't really have to worry about that. Wormhole stations I don't even think have weapons. So the fact that it's fighting a battleship is pretty silly. And I caught that 2.5K fleet. I was wanting to not have sniped my transports. And I can send these guys up north as soon as they're finished cleaning up the mining station. Let's see, this planet is secure. This transport fleet, I'm gonna have move around here and land on the planet that the minion has secured for me. And we have this fleet on the way there.
Construction complete.
Trying to keep this war moving pretty quickly. We've had a few big marathon wars, and marathons can be interesting. Oh hey, Lavis's fleet. They are moving to Sidir. See if I can go say hi to him there. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him. At least not there.
Hostile fleet engaged. Enemy planet secure.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go to what I think will be his next planet. Ah, damn it. They caught these transports. And that's what I mean. The AI is really good at catching transports. Yeah, I'm going to lose some of these. 16 days. And the minion, I don't even think he's responding. Yeah, see, he hasn't even left the planet to help out the transport fleet. So, I know I'm going to lose at least 2. But they retreated. That's weird. Alright. There is no reason to retreat from a transport fleet if nobody's moving to engage you. Alright. So, let's see, what are we doing now? I control this planet already. So I'm going to send... Alright, looking for drones. The surviving drones have been missing since the suicide incident. History buffs on Ishram Prime are convinced that drones are still in close proximity, shielded from prying eyes by some lost technology, but the expected time window for their next activation has come and gone. Progress on deep analysis of the destroyed drones' remains has been slow, but a breakthrough is expected soon.
Hostile fleet engaged.
Alright, so... on the treaty, We are still at minus 85. They are not even remotely willing to take it yet. Mostly because we're down to 34 war score, courtesy of the minion abandoning his post.
Hostile fleet engaged.
Oh my god.
Hostile fleet
They caught me again? Jeez, I'm just not paying attention, I guess.
situation log updated.
And all it would have taken was the minion to actually engage stuff in the system, but it decided against it. I knew I shouldn't have sent these guys out there to do something with the minion. Alright. So I got that army out, and I'm rebuilding its last casualty. This transport in Subra.
Hostile fleet engaged.
So
Hostile fleet engaged. Hostile
you can see the land armies with the influence cost here. That's because it's a planet controlled by primitives. I can invade and take it over,
updated.
but it's essentially colonizing a new planet. And I could probably do that with some of the primitives that are in my space. I don't think there would be a whole lot of harm in it. And it'd probably be a lot cheaper as a result of just being closer in general. But I'm also, at the same time, not really that concerned.
Situation log updated.
And now we are at minus 68. You can see the war score moving pretty quickly once I start to actually occupy things correctly. And tearing through their stuff here. One of my combat fleets... Oh yeah, it's in Ridigus.
Fleet engaged.
So the planet is occupied. So send my ships to this system, where I've got a fleet ready to
Hostile fleet engaged.
finish being useful. And I still didn't get Euchromia because of the minion. He just abandoned his post. Thanks, minion. And those I can just leave alone and focus up here for a moment.
Hostile fleet engaged.
Yeah, he's got magnets in a lot of his systems, which I mentioned before, but we're at the point in the game where you never want to lead the way with transports, you always want to lead with a combat fleet. And ideally keep transports in the system to support, or keep the combat fleet in the system to support transports. But sometimes we get minions that aren't helpful. And then we make the mistake of relying on them. And it costs us several armies.
Hostile fleet
Which, financially, they're cheap to replace. I'm not worried about that. It's just that, you know, Xenomorph armies take a year to build, and it leaves the stack in a very weakened state until I get a chance to actually rebuild them. But that said, I think 7 is probably enough to still polish off that planet. Get my transport armies up there working together. And the Lavis had a 10k fleet remaining after that fight. I think they ran them all back to their own space though to try and repair. I don't think that's necessarily going to work out well for them. But I am going to go ahead and insert a cut here. So thank you for watching, and I hope you've been enjoying.